Okay, guys. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Type in chat. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm Nandini. Welcome to Cohort's Open Source Cohort. Um, I'm so glad to see so many of you here today. So let me talk about the agenda for today. So we're gonna go over why open source. We're gonna describe the project that we're working on. Then we'll talk about some prereqs, how you can contribute, and then we'll leave with some closing remarks. Okay, so why open source, right? So open source basically it runs the world, and thankfully for this cohort, it's not going to be competitive. Anyone can hop on and contribute. Canvas, Firefox, Linux, WordPress, these are all examples of things and platforms that you know that are open source. You're able to collaborate and innovate, and it's pretty secure because you have peers who will review every ticket that is put in, and it's a really great way to learn by doing. For open source, this will allow you guys to get some real world industry experience, collaborate, and have the opportunity to network with other like minded fellows. And you can gain some solid experience for your resume, but you won't get this experience by just working on like personal projects. And you can only put this on your resume if you are a contributor slash active member. A contributor means that you've merged at least one pull request successfully to the GitHub repo. Frequent contributors will be determined based on the total number of pull requests that you've made, and active members will be rewarded. Like you will get a huge advantage if you're a frequent contributor and decide to apply to CodeLab in our next recruitment cycle. So, to describe our project a little bit, the goal of our project is to create a React component library with modern CodeLab themed designs. And basically, we just want to be able to provide reusable, customizable UI components for faster and consistent web development. The technologies that we're going to be using are Next.js, Tailwind CSS, ShadCN, and Storybook. And installing should be pretty easy, and you'll be easy to integrate this into any of your Next.js projects. But yeah, we're just going to be building some pre-built responsive components with Tailwind CSS integration, and they should be accessible and have mobile-friendly designs as well. And then we're using Storybook for their documentation and for demos. Okay, so to talk about your prereqs a little, like I said, open source is a big learning by doing thing. So it's okay if you haven't ever done a project like this before. Like anyone can start from scratch. GitHub is a must. That's going to be what we're going to be using for our tickets and pull requests. But you can learn GitHub pretty fast using stuff you can find online. Um, but yeah, just learn GitHub first, and then you can play with like the underlying technologies like React, Tailwind, Shadcn, and Storybook. You really can learn a lot by just messing around, reading the documentation, even asking AI tools online if you really need that. We have the GitHub repo set to public. I posted it in the resources tab for the Discord server. And so you can take some time to fork it on GitHub and play with it, but make sure you don't commit anything. And then you can also run Storybook to see how like an example button component that we made looks like. So that's going to be like the end product for the components that we make. As a reminder, active membership is not automatic. And to be an active member, you have to contribute at least one PR to the GitHub repo. And then just a reminder, you can only put this as your as an experience on your resume or your LinkedIn or anything like that once you have become an active member and contributed at least one PR to the GitHub repo.
Okay, so I'm going to talk more about contributing and workflow. And this is where things are going to get more complicated. But also, this is one of the most important parts of the project about contributing and workflow. So it's completely fine if you don't follow, if you get lost. We're going to post meeting notes after this. You can review them later and you can see the repo and try new things. But I'm just going to go over how the project is going to work. So for open source, we will have a ticket-based management system. Just because we have so many people, we're going to operate solely based on tickets. All tickets are going to be posted on a tab called GitHub Issues. If you go to the repo and you switch from the code component to the issues component, you can see a sample ticket I've put there. Tickets will be released every 1 or 2 weeks, depending on how the project is flowing, how the other tickets have been completed. The first batch of tickets drop tomorrow, and we're going to post that on the announcements channel, so keep an eye out for that. And I would recommend getting comfortable with the technologies first, just because some of you might not have used all the technologies we're using, like React, Tailwind, ShadCN, Storybook, all of that. I would recommend getting comfortable with the technologies first, and then you can review the tickets and you can assign yourself tickets. Once you assign yourself a ticket, you'll have 2 weeks to work on it. If you get stuck somewhere, it's not a problem. You can reach out to one of the maintainers on Discord, and we're also gonna have office hours. We'll post the timing soon. But if you have any doubts with the code or any problems that you're running into while setting up, you can attend those office hours or you can shoot us a message. Once the 2 weeks are up, we will have to assign the ticket to somebody else unless you're very close to getting it. Just because we have so many people, so we want to be fair to every person who's part of the Discord channel and give them all a chance. So the hard deadline for a ticket is going to be 2 weeks. And we're also going to keep in mind that it's 2 weeks, so we're not going to give you like massive tickets for 2 weeks. It's going to be small, bite-sized tickets. And there's not going to be a lot of tickets in each batch. So I would assume like between 5 and 10 tickets. So not everyone is going to get a ticket at the first go, but it's completely fine if you don't get a ticket. This is going to be a long project. You can contribute as you go, and you can experiment with the repo and wait for the next batches of tickets as well. You can also make your tickets yourself, and we'll come to that later. Moving on, we will be building on top of ShadCN UI. This is a UI component library which has pre-made components. And the reason we're building on top of a different library is because making a component is not as easy as it seems. There's a lot of things that go behind what you see on the screen, like accessibility and browser rules and all of that. And we want to make sure that we are building something that's high quality. So we're going to use ShadCN. And how this is going to work is we're going to take components from ShadCN. We're going to strip down the design entirely, and then we're going to implement our designs onto the ShadCN component. So designs for some initial components are going to be on Figma, which is a design software. If you guys haven't used Figma, it's fine. You can come to office hours and you can talk to one of us to figure it out. And the link is going to be included in the tickets. The Shathian component links will also be included in the tickets. So suppose you're working on a slider component, we'll include the Shathian slider component in the ticket so you can copy the code and then edit the styling for that. And the process to add a Shathian component and remove all of its native styling and adding our styling, that is something that's going to be in the README file of the repository. So now we're going to talk about pull requests. This is probably one of the most important parts of open source. We have a template ready for a pull request. So for the guys that have used GitHub before, you know what a pull request is, and it should be very descriptive. And you should run a couple of scripts before you commit anything. So that's going to be to keep your code clean, consistent, and error-free, basically, because there's a lot of people working on the same project, so you want to make sure that the code is readable for everyone. We are also going to be working with GitHub issues, as I mentioned. We'll have templates for that. And this is the part where you can create your own tickets. So, for example, if you were playing around and you found a bug in the code, or you found some error in the documentation, or you're looking to implement like a new component, and you exactly know what you want to do with ShadCN and the design, and you don't have a ticket for that already, you can make a new GitHub issue, and I can actually show that to you right here. So, if you can see the screen, this is the code part right here, and then we have an issues tab. Can you see my GitHub screen? Okay. So this is a test issue. And suppose I feel like I'm confident enough to implement a slider component right now. I found the ShadCN component for that, and I know what styling I need to do. I can create a new issue right here, and then I can select a feature request, which will take me to a page where you can create a new issue. There's also going to be a bug report issue, a documentation update template, and then a blank one, which is for miscellaneous things. One thing I want to emphasize is that pull requests, you can only have pull requests if you have a valid ticket for it. So if you don't have a valid ticket for it, we're not gonna review the pull request. And after GitHub issues, there's some GitHub etiquettes, like you never work on the main branch, you branch off, and you can basically make a new branch and create a pull request for that. More rules are obviously going to be outlined in the contributing.md file, so make sure you review that afterwards. Uh, that's it. I also wanted to show you what you were talking about in terms of Storybook. So Storybook is basically a library that we use to test UI components. And this is how it looks like. So if you go to the main repo, you run npm install, which is going to install all the libraries and packages, and then you run npm run storybook. You're going to be taken to this page, and this is basically our first component right here. It's a button, right? It's not a lot, and but it's our first component, and this is how it's going to look like. This is how the design is going to be for other components as well. So you can see we have a primary, we have a destructive button, we have an outline button, we have like different variants of the same button. And this is how it's going to be for most of the components. Like even though one component might seem simple, you're going to have like multiple variants of it. So it's going to take more time. Uh, that's that's all I wanted to talk about on the technical side. There's obviously more things to look at in the README file and in the contributing file. Yeah, that's it. We're gonna post meeting notes afterwards. So if you missed something in this, don't worry. We'll post everything later. The first batch of tickets is going to be released tomorrow, as Nandini mentioned. In the meantime, I would recommend getting familiar with the technology. So if you've never worked with React or if you've never worked with Tailwind, just go to the documentation, play around. They have like playground set up for you to experiment with the code. You can also fork the repo we have right here. You can fork this repo and then you can experiment. You can run like different commands. You can run npm, run storybook, and see how it looks like on your end. And if you have any questions, you can shoot a message on Discord to any of the mentors or on the general channel, and we'll do our best to get back to you. Uh, yes, thank you for coming. And now the ground is open to questions if you have any.
All right, so just going through the chat, I read a couple question, but one of them is there a defined CodeLab style slash structure for these components that will be provided? Um, I can take this and then Ari, if you want to add anything, that would be awesome. But yeah, so there is going to be a hopefully a Figma link that will be released very soon, I think, or it should be there, that has all of the styles for all the different components. So you'll be using that as a guide for when you're implementing these components. And then Aryan, do we know how many tickets are going to be available for the first batch coming tomorrow?
So we have designs ready for like 5 or 10 components. I would say like a rough estimate would be 10 tickets for the first batch.
Okay. Okay.
And I see some other questions as well. Do we automatically become an active member once we finish our first completed pull request? Yes. So that's how you become an active member. You're also going to see your name as a contributor on GitHub once you merge a pull request. And you can add that to your resume or to your LinkedIn or whatever you want. Um, Is there a first come, first serve basis for tickets? That's a good question. Yes, there is. So once we make the announcement, whoever gets to the page first and whoever assigns themselves the tickets first, they're gonna get to work on the tickets for 2 weeks. Um, but we have a lot of people and we want to make sure we're fair, so it's going to be a hard deadline for 2 weeks. And if we don't get the ticket done by 2 weeks, we're going to transfer it over. And we're going to release them weekly or bi-weekly. So even if you miss out on the first one batch or the first two batches, it's fine. You can still propose new issues. You can work on it by yourselves. And if you end up contributing something, you can become an active member. Can you give us an example of a ticket that might be assigned tomorrow? Yeah, that's a very good question. Russell, do you want to take that?
Which one is that one?
Uh, can you give us an example of a ticket that might be assigned tomorrow?
Yeah, I can prepare one right now, and then, or do you? Yeah, I can make a sample one right now if you'd
Yes.
like.
Yeah, sure. Just to give you an overview for the ticket, it's gonna be something simple for the first few tickets. Like we have already made a button component, so maybe it's like a slider component, and then we'll have links, the relevant links in the designs, and then you can implement like the primary design, and then we'll have different copies for like the ghost variant or like the destructive variant, different variants. Yeah.
Aryan, I have a question. Do you want to maybe break out into like maybe three breakout rooms? That way we can answer questions a little bit quicker.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we can do that right now. Let me see. Wait, can I just make you the host? And can you do it? I'm not sure
Yeah,
how
yeah,
to do it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's see. All right, so for some reason I can't make breakout rooms. I'm not sure why. You don't have the option, I don't think.
Let me see if I can change that. Or
Mm.
we can just continue like this.
Yeah, let's just continue like this and then maybe next
Yeah,
time we'll
yes. Um, will the resource text channel be posted after this call? Yes, we'll post all of the slides and the resources after this call. How's the process work? Does the ticket become mine as soon as I click choose, or do I need to prove I'm comfortable with the library or tools involved? So the ticket will become yours as soon as you click assign to yourself. And for the proving part, you're given 2 weeks to prove if you can complete the ticket. We're not going to test you anything on anything beforehand, but if you can't do it in the 2 weeks, then we're going to reassign the ticket. Um, how to claim a ticket? That's a good question. I can share my screen again. Let's see. Wait, Russell, can you give me permission to share my screen?
Oh yeah, yeah, I forgot you made me host.
Yeah,
Let me just like make you host again. There you go.
okay.
There you go.
Yep. Uh, can you guys see my screen? Okay, so basically, these are going to be the issues or the tickets that we're going to issue. And for the test issue, if I go to test issue, you can see that there's assignees, right? This means that the person who's going to complete the ticket is going to be here. And if there's no one, you can just assign the ticket to yourself. And I'm logged in with the CodeLab Davis account, so it says CodeLab Davis. But basically, this ticket is mine now, and I have 2 weeks to complete it now. Hope that makes it clear. Did I miss any questions? Is it a good idea for people to camp on the GitHub repo to claim tickets quickly when it gets posted? That's an interesting question. You don't need to camp on the GitHub repo. We'll send an announcement as soon as we release the tickets. So if you have notifications on, as soon as you see like the announcement, you can go and claim a ticket. But also make sure I want to make it clear that it's like not a race to get the tickets, and you should only take a ticket if you feel comfortable with the project and if you've worked it before and you've like kind of worked your way through it. So if you if you take a ticket and you can't complete it in 2 weeks, then there's no point of holding the ticket up for 2 weeks. I just want to make sure that people don't camp and just take tickets for the sake of it. And you need to make sure that you're comfortable with the technologies used first. I was wondering if certain tickets could be assigned to more than one person to increase the number of people that can contribute. That's a very good question. Um, at least for the start, we're going to design tickets in such a way that one person can complete them in 2 weeks. And moving on, if we have tickets that are like depending on each other or they're harder to complete, then we'll have collaborators as well.
All right, if those are all the questions, if anyone has any last minute questions, you can drop them in now. Um, but otherwise, I think everyone's free to leave, right, Aryan? You can just head out. Okay, bet.
Yes. Uh, Yes, that sounds good. Thank you so much for attending, and yeah, stay tuned for the ticket drop tomorrow. Yeah, thank you.
So you guys, thank you for coming.